Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening to the audio, you're listening to Ask James, my regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community. A little bit later than usual, it's just gone 5 p.m. UK time, and over the next hour or so I'll be answering the YouTube community's questions on anything football related. Obviously the game week 31 deadline is 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Holla Stamos is first in the chat. It says, hello, James. Chilwell to Trent for a hit question. If I want Salah and Trent for game week 34, I would be forced to do that move for a hit in 34 anyway. So maybe just do it now. It's certainly up for consideration. I think if it was for free, it's certainly something I'd be considering. I think it depends a little bit on your strategy as well, Holla. So if you're not free hitting in 32... then there's every justification to make that move, I think, next week. For what it's worth, my take would be that I think Chilwell probably does start tomorrow. I think Chelsea and Liverpool probably both concede this weekend. So do I think it's worth the hit? Probably not in the immediate. I know what you're saying, you can do it in 34 anyway. Yeah, but take all the information and do it in 34 then. You might decide it's something else at that point. You might decide it's Robertson instead. You might decide it's a Manchester City defender instead, for example. I don't know. But I think if you're in doubt, the answer is no, mate. JP's managed to get about 6 questions in, which I'm going to cover them because they seem interesting. But for future reference, JP, let's let everyone else have a chance. So I'm going to rattle through yours quickly. How do you rate Manchester United defensive assets with their injury woes? Probably no buy zone currently. The word is in the last half hour or so that we think it's probably broken metatarsal for Lisandro Martinez. Seems to be the word, which is likely to finish his season, but it'll be fine for pre-season and next season. So it could have been a lot worse. If it was a ruptured Achilles tendon, you're looking at several months. But it's probably an avoid at the moment till we see it, right? JP says keep Isak or sell to Jesus or Kane. I'd keep. He says start 2 out of Botman, Chilwell and Estupinan, the 2 fullbacks, mate. He says, do you think no Zaha has anything to do with Palace's 2 wins? The only thing I'd say, no, generally, but the only thing I'd say to that is a little bit what I spoke about on Tuesday's podcast. But in defensive shape, you'd see Elise and Ayew quite deep, and Zaha probably wouldn't go in that deep, and they'd have more of a balance towards getting him away. So it's probably better for Elise at the moment. But no, I think they'd have won them games anyway. Your top 3 Man United assets now, all with their injuries. The same 3, Shaw, Fernandes, Rashford, and I realise for this week that's not great. So if it's for this week specifically, then De Gea, Fernandes, toss a coin between Anthony and Weghorst, because listen to Ten Hag earlier, I think Martial probably doesn't start this weekend. JP says, thoughts on Maddison and Rashford to Salah and Grealish? My take on Rashford, I'll cover that rather than... I think it's okay. But my take on Rashford generally is I think for those 3 hitting in 32, the word on the street would suggest there's every chance he's back for that Tottenham game in game week 33. And my take always has been, even if he didn't make 34, it's a bit different for me because I've got a front 3 at the moment, that I'd buy him back almost as soon as he's available. So it's saving me a transfer down the road. So if I can afford to just leave it on the side till I've got a bit more information, that's the plan. So he's staying for me at the moment. Right, Atul Balaji says, hey James, which would be the best game week for me to free hit other than 32? Also, what do you think of Maddison, Rashford, Tony to Salah, Martinelli, Edouard -8? Edouard bench most weeks except 32. So, okay. In terms of the hit, I mean, it's big and I'm not for it, to be totally honest. I think Edouard has got favouritism at the moment over Mateta, but I think that could change. I don't think Edward's a bad one to downgrade to. But you're saying you're not going to use it, so maybe just go to Greenwood and put $1 million in the bank. Like you're saying use him in 32, so maybe you don't want to free hit 32. If you're not free hitting 32, then there's far more justification for that move. Far more justification. And I don't mind it. I'd probably leave 1 back maybe for next week. But yeah, if you're not free hitting 32, then it's okay, I guess. Not that I'm massively keen. in terms of when's best of 3 here, I don't know how I'm meant to answer that, mate. I don't know who's in your team. I don't know how well you're set up for 34. But that's probably the obvious answer is 34, isn't it? 33 is going to be a shit week for everyone. There's no real justification. So if it's not 34, it's 36, 37, 38. 36 is only really if you've got no Newcastle, really. 37, you're going to want similar players in 34 to 37, bar Liverpool less of an interest for 37 because they don't double. Chelsea have a double instead, but the double's the two Manchester clubs away. It's not great. So maybe go mad in 38. But for most people, 32 will still be right, and I know it's not for everyone. I know there's lots looking at alternatives, but as I've said several times the last couple of weeks, I can't shake the feeling that the players you'll want in 34, you also want in 37. So you're building that way anyway. It's only if you think those extra 3 weeks of transfers helps build you up to 37. That would be the only thing for it. Stephen Moore says, hi James, struggling to decide on who to start between Raya and De Gea. Had been on De Gea all week, but the probable makeshift defence means I'm now leaning towards Raya. If you're leaning towards Raya, lean towards Raya. I'll give you a statistic that may well help you a little bit. Nottingham Forest haven't failed to score in a home game since they played Tottenham in game week 4. However, let's flip the narrative and make sure we do this fairly. Manchester United have played Nottingham Forest 3 times since Christmas and kept a clean sheet in all of them. And they played a makeshift back 4 in a few of them as well. And Luke Shaw certainly started centre-back in one of them. So, and what did they beat them? 3-0 twice and 2-0 once, I think. Probably be a similar story on Sunday. So me personally, I'd still be starting De Gea. FPL Lighthouse says, hi James, if you owned Kepa and Steele this week, would you be making a goalkeeper transfer? Thanks for the great content. So just did our team news stream for the advanced tier patrons, and it was highlighted during the stream this very strange comment that De Zerbi made when asked about. He was pressed on. He said there's a couple of little issues in the squad, but nothing major. When pressed on it, he said, tomorrow I need to check the goalkeeper. I need to check the defenders. We'll decide the team tomorrow. And I think people literally just zoned in like, oh my God, is there a problem with Steele? But I think my read on that is, I think he was saying, we just need to check everyone tomorrow. The whole team. In other words, I don't want to tell you nothing. So my answer to that would be, and I do think Mendy will come in for Chelsea tomorrow. But my honest reaction to that would be that if neither of them start, you are so mad unlucky. And you haven't got enough information. Do you really want to move Steele on? The one to move on would be Kepa. I think that's clear at this moment. And if it's a free transfer and you can shove it to someone else who's... The thing is, you don't even want to shove it to someone else who's got a double, because unless you're bench boosting 34. So I feel like the information's probably more important to you rather than actually trying to get a gain on it. So for me, it's take your medicine. If Steele didn't play, you're mad unlucky. But my read on it is that De Zerbi was purely saying, look, I need to check the goalkeepers, need to check the defenders, and he could have gone on and said midfielders and forwards, and he just stopped himself short as if to say, I'm bored of this. That was my take on it. FPL Andy says, afternoon James, Fernandes or Grealish in this week as a Maddison replacement? I wouldn't buy Bruno Fernandes at the moment. Half considered selling him today. I don't think I'm going to. I'm likely to go Maddison to Grealish, boring, same as everyone else. But I was looking at a few ideas of maybe doing Grealish in for Fernandes that would open up another move that would mean Maddison to Salah later on. But I think the better thing at the moment is, we'd said with United that let's judge it from a Fernandes perspective after the Nottingham Forest game. So if I make the judgment beforehand, when he might play further forward, I suspect he might not, by the way, this weekend. But I think he will do in coming weeks. It might be we need more information before 34. So I wouldn't buy Fernandes now. I really wouldn't. So it would be Grealish for me, Andy. Neil Kager, hello mate, says, greetings from finally spring like Ottawa. Nice one, mate. Hope all's well. Thanks for the support as always, mate. Atul says, how important is the goalkeeper for a relegation battle? Could the teams with the relatively worst keepers be more likely to go down this year? Yeah, sure. I think if Leicester had a great goalkeeper, they'd arguably not be in this position, would they? It's not to say they wouldn't be, but maybe they wouldn't be. So, but who down there at the moment has got a great goalkeeper? I think we've seen the difference in Bournemouth with and without Neto, to be fair. But I think we're saying relatively worse. I don't think that'll be a deciding factor. But yeah, I mean, it certainly could be. I mean, take your goalkeeper. Attil's a Wolves fan. Like, Sarr's not had a great season, has he? I don't think. Not as good as his last season in any case. Bazunu's been a problem for Southampton all season. Would they be in a better position? And he's a keeper with really good potential, by the way. But I don't think he's imposed himself well this season. Meslier has his moments for and against for Leeds. Do you give Everton a bit of favouritism because Jordan Pickford's a good goalkeeper? I don't know. They could still go, couldn't they? Sean McGing says, "Hi James, hope all's good with you. What to do?" Burnley went down with Pope last year, right? Just to close on that. Sean says, "Hi James, hope all's good. Hope all is good with you. What to do with Rashford if I have free Man City? Also looking to free up funds for Watkins to Darwin in game week 34. Would you drop Shaw down to Malacia on free hit 30? Sorry. Would you drop Shaw down to Malacia? He's saying he's on free hit 32. No, at the moment, no. But you're probably in a position where you're going, I need to make a transfer here. And I know what you're saying. You want to free up Watkins to Darwin in 34. Yeah, it's the sort of move I've potentially got in mind as well. You're probably looking at sacrificing something else. It's difficult to say, Sean, when I obviously can't see your team. But if you've got someone like a Ben Chilwell, who again I think probably does start this week, but if you want to drop that down to like a Canate or something, just as an example, to free up some money, that's different ways of doing it. Right now, my personal opinion would be for those three hitting 32, he's probably a hold Marcus Rashford. As long as you've got the cover. The bench is important, right? It's relative. So you'll see people say, oh, you've got to sell or you've got to hold. Yeah, okay. But if you hold and you've got Greenwood and Wout Fass and something else shit on the bench, then it's not great, is it? You want to do something about it. So it's really dependent on who comes into your team instead. Like, certainly have no fear about playing the Brighton players this week would be my take. But I guess if you're free hitting 32, you've probably got one free transfer and desperate to use something. Sean, I'd love to see your team in that circumstance. Drop me a tag on Twitter. We'll have a look at it. Ali Bismo says, "Hi there, James. I've got midfield of Saka, two Brighton guys, Bruno and Rashford. Do I get Grealish this week? After 10 Hag's comments, Rashford could be back by 34. I free hit in game week 32, most likely." So it's repetitive, this, right? So the reality is, you don't want to sell the Brighton players. Bruno Fernandes is going to be similar to my view that we haven't got enough at the moment to make a full decision on shit. Do we need to like jump off this? And you don't want to be in Saka this week, do you really? That would be the one. But is it that better? Grealish versus Saka this week? Then they play each other 33. I'd probably be inclined to leave it for the moment, I think, Ali. Mahomie says, "Hi James, would you and Suj ever allow each other to manage their FPL teams for 1 week? If so, would there be any rules, conditions, or just play it their own way? Keep up the great content." Thank you, mate. Suj would probably, although he's doing better than me, he'd probably be happy if I just managed his team every week, I should imagine. Would there be any rules in place? I mean, I could only think if I didn't have access to the internet or something, I was abroad and I went, "Suj, do this for me this week." But I'd probably message him and say, "Do one of these things for me." And I think he'd probably do the same. I can't envisage a circumstance where one or the other would manage it for us. I think we'd probably both be compelled if we were managing each other's teams to make safe plays, I think, if I'm honest. Jay Barker says, "Is Maddison, Tony and Watkins to Grealish, Haaland and Ferguson for -4 worth it?" Well, if you're not free hitting in 32, then definitely not. I'm going to have to assume from that, Jay, that you are considering it. I've got a consciousness about Ferguson at the moment. I thought he'd start at Tottenham last week, and he didn't. Is there a favouritism for Welbeck in some of these more difficult fixtures? Is that going to be painful for you, for example, this weekend, or when Brighton play Manchester United in game week 34? I'd probably prefer to leave that Brighton option open. If you don't have free Brighton, if you do, it's great. If you don't, I'd probably be keen to leave that option open and make a decision prior to game week 33 or 34 on what to add, or even leave it later. On the face of it, it's moves to get Haaland, isn't it, really? Maddison to Grealish for a -4, probably yes. It's the losing Tony and Watkins together. Doesn't feel right at this minute. I think if I had to lose one at this moment, again, this is going to be really subject to what's on your bench, would probably be Watkins. Because my take on that, I've got both. My take on that right now is, which one would I rather play in 34 if I have to, if I can't get a Darwin Núñez for whatever reason? And it's Tony at home to Forest, isn't it? Now, of course, Tony could get booked in game week 32 and miss game week 34. Or he gets booked this week and misses game week 33. Maybe you got no cover, I don't know. I think probably, Jay, that's going to put the captaincy on a Haaland, and therefore the correct answer is probably yes, just do it. Particularly if you are heading towards building for game week 34. Ollie Blake says, hi James, own Kepa and Ward, so thinking I'll move Kepa on for a 2-week pick, looking to wildcard in 33. Who do you have as the best option? Thinking Alisson, Pope or Johnston, but open to anything. I think from that, probably Alisson, actually, would be the one I'd go for from the 3. All reasonable shouts if it's just for the 2 weeks, by the way. I don't think Neto is a terrible option either, but Tottenham away this week is probably going to put you off a little bit. I think Leno, they've been bad though. I don't fancy him at Everton tomorrow. Everton away, Leeds at home is a decent 2 fixtures. I don't mind that. On the fixtures alone, it's Alisson or Johnston probably, isn't it? I think I'd go Alisson personally. Jay Barker says, also Shrek, the greatest animated movie of all time. Wow, greatest animated movie of all time is probably up there with Lego films and Minions. Johnny McGrath says, would you ever get with a subscriber? As in what, a relationship? My friend, I've got a ring on my finger, so it's over for me. JP says, how's game week 39 training going? I watched the lads play. I'm not playing this year. I'm going to be part of the coaching team. I watched the guys play, did my bit to try and help, give a few bits of advice. They drew against a side that plays regularly 4-4 a couple of weeks ago. Really enjoyed it. I think we've got a few knocks at the moment, a few walking wounded. But yeah, looking forward to game week 39. Castlevale Stadium and support Street Child United. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen back to the podcast with Benny Blanco a couple of weeks ago. North versus South, FPL content creators raising money for a very important charity. It's the first Saturday in June, the 3rd, I think. Hoarder Face says, good evening, James. No free hit, 1 free transfer. What's your view on Rashford to Elise? This one's a bit different. So you're not free hitting next week. So you're getting the justification of Southampton away and Everton at home. And then you can make a decision. So that's probably one I'm more inclined to say yes. But in reference to what I've said previously, as soon as he's available, you probably want him back. So is there something else? Do you have decent cover on the bench this week? Is it an overreaction to what Palace did last week? Do I think Palace will do well tomorrow? Yes, probably. Is that an okay transfer for 2 weeks? Yep, absolutely. It probably depends on the strength of the rest of your squad. So you can do that and go, that's great. Are you in a comfortable position to reverse that? And you probably won't reverse it in 33. 34 you may want to. Are you going to be able to? That's all. James Gibson says, hi James, I'm planning to do Chilwell to Trent between now and 34. Whenever I do it will be for a hit. Should I do it now? I'm free hit 32, so it's Chilwell's 2 home games or Trent 2 away games. So yeah, this is it. Obviously, I answered a very similar question right at the start, James. So apologies if you joined in a little bit late. But listen back to the tools to start the string. So basically answered that exact question. And for me, it would be a wait at the moment. George Nibb says, is Rashford and Tony to Andreas and Haaland worth a -4 this week. Went KDB last week and got away with it, but the fear is real now. Free hit next week probably. Cheers. Yeah. Yeah, I'd get it. I mean, is it worth it? Like on the face of it straight away? Yes, probably. But all I'd say is, are you happy with KDB for 34? And just think through that. Because I look at those fixtures, Fulham away, West Ham at home, and I think probably particularly the West Ham game is every chance doesn't start that. So I'd just bear that in mind, that's all. But is that worth it on the face of it? Yeah, you're gonna get Haaland in, you're gonna captain him. One of the players you're selling isn't playing. Yes, would Tony to Haaland in itself be worth a -4 and put the armband on Haaland this week? I think we've probably got to say yes, unfortunately, haven't we? So yes. Dan has no free hits. Says best midfielder for the next 2 game weeks, excluding Arsenal and Salah. Currently thinking Gakpo, but not excited by it. Yeah, again, that falls down to the fixtures. So you're looking at Liverpool, you're looking at Palace. You've already said like not Arsenal. That's probably the best of it. I would be inclined to go Gakpo, I think, if it was me. But it wouldn't be part of the midfield 5 I'd want to end up with in 34, I don't think. So there's every chance I'd take the Elise decision, maybe. Sam Brennan says, hi mate, I need to sell someone to get Haaland in this week, considering selling Reece James for Aki or Tony for Solanke. Do you see Reece being a good asset game week 33 onwards? I don't need him this week. I think it's an expensive one that you won't start in 34. 33 is okay. 37 is a double, but it's ugly. 38, home game Newcastle, probably depends on what Newcastle are up to at that point. Bournemouth 35 and Forest 36 look nice, but comes with the caveat of the following. Newcastle Brighton's likely to go in 36. And if you're like me, with Botman, Trippier, and probably adding a Brighton defender at some stage, and you look at the fixtures of other teams in 36, you have to start asking if the likes of James and Chilwell for that period could be sacrificed. Because when the best fixture of all comes round, if you've got 6 Brighton and Newcastle, and you're sitting there with the likes of Rashford at home to Wolves, Manchester City away to Everton, Liverpool away to Leicester, are you even playing him? And that's probably where your answer lies, Sam. Look ahead. Use FPL.team. Use the tool. Look ahead. Where are you at come game week 36? Plan your transfers. And if you're at a position where you're going there going, oh my God, not in the Forest at home, I'm not even convinced if I play Reece James, then it's sacrifice, isn't it? I think. Now, you might make the decision, well, yeah, I'll play in 35, I'll play in 36, double 37, great. And certainly, I think over those games, James and Chilwell will be great little differentials for those Bournemouth and Forest games. But will you even play them? That's what you need to double check. Now, on the face of it, you go, I never bench Reece James, like I'm not in the Forest. Sure, can't disagree with that. But honestly, have a double check that who would you bench that week if the Newcastle Brighton game goes in there, which is highly likely. Now, just to cover that, now that Manchester City have beat Bayern Munich 3-0, essentially means it has to go there. The game can't go in game week 35 now, and that's due to Newcastle and Leeds, I think, being the BT game on the Saturday lunchtime 36, I want to say. So it literally can't even fit in. It absolutely would have to go into game week 36, unless Bayern Munich turn it round against Man City, in which case the Brighton-Manchester City game could go in that week instead, and Newcastle-Brighton perhaps in 37. But as it stands, I mean, we're looking at a 95% probability now of Newcastle-Brighton in 36. I've plucked that number out of my, but it's nearly a certainty at this stage. Bar Man City fucking it up, right? Even then, it could still be that Newcastle-Brighton's 36. So just check that week in the future, because my strategy idea when I get there is to have, like I said, Trippier, Botman, Isak. I've got McAllister and Mitoma, and the idea would probably be add another Brighton player. So there's 6, as I said. If I'm sitting there with, let's say, Salah and Nunez away to Leicester, I've got 3 Man City away to Everton, Rashford and Shaw at home to Wolves. There's a debate to be had. Even then, what about, say you've got Kane still, okay, away to Villa. But would you actually pick Reece James at home to Nottingham Forest rather than Harry Kane away to Aston Villa? I don't know, man. Really don't know the answer to that. So plan your transfers, have a look further ahead. It might even be one, laughably, that's convenient for people to bench boost. For those who still have it. Have a check, maybe. Who's next? Says Mr. Dyer, hi James, I've been thinking about joining your Patreon, but just wondered, where's the rest of it? What did you wonder? Yeah, listen, we'd love to have your support on Patreon, www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Come and join us from basic tier, get access to my planning spreadsheet and the Slack community with 700 patrons, and many of the other Planet FPL correspondents are in there as well. Intermediate tier, you get 20 plus podcasts a month. Advanced tier, you get additional video content, which Nico's been busily working away on a tactical analysis from Liverpool Arsenal, which is over half hour long, which I'll be posting later this evening for advanced tier patrons. Yeah, come and join us, mate. Sweet Blue says, hi James, I can't help but feel Grealish is a trap this week, but other options seem slim. Where else can we go if not Grealish as Maddison replacement? 10 million budget, free hit 32. Cheers. Gundogan? Look, I think the ideal 5 that people were heading to for 34 was 2 Brighton. So let's just use Mitoma and Marsh as an example. Fernandes and Rashford plus Salah. And the question you have to ask yourself is, if you're putting Grealish in there, what are those 5 are you not having instead? Now, for me right now, it's no Mo Salah. But probably, if Bruno Fernandes keeps playing where he's been playing, it'll be Fernandes to Salah for me in 34. Which doesn't quite sound optimal, but that's probably what I'd be doing. Now, if Grealish flops, it's Grealish onto Salah and work the money somewhere else. So to describe it as a trap at this stage, not convinced. And you're almost answering your own question a little bit, saying, so what's the alternatives? Well, yeah, this is why it's a really popular transfer this week. He's got 24 FPL points in his last 2. He's playing one of the weakest defences in the league. They're going for the title. There's minimal risk of rotation, and normally there's a lot more. It's difficult. I know what you're saying. You're looking for expert, but where do you look for alternatives? You start looking at Palace. You look at, if you were looking for a 1 week punt, even at your value, you wouldn't consider someone like Son. You can't. Wouldn't advise that anyway. Back to Arsenal. Now, if you're not free hitting 32, then sure, get yourself another Arsenal player maybe. You've just said that you are. It is Grealish, I'm afraid. I think he's the right call. James Gibson says, start is Stupinan or Share. I would start is Stupinan, personally, I think. Froda says, the Norwegian FPL set the deadline to 5 minutes before the game so everyone can catch as much info as they can. Like it, or would you stay with a 90-minute in FPL? Can I give you the honest answer? I don't really care enough. Like, if it's 5 minutes before, play to those rules. If it's 90 minutes before, 60 minutes before, 3 hours before, 12 hours before, 24 hours, whatever the rule is, I'll play by the rules. Like, I don't really care enough about, this is what I want. Nah. 90 minutes works fine for me. It's better than 60 minutes for me in the sense that, take game week 35, the FPL deadline is going to be at 1:30. The fact it's 90 minutes means I can finish the stream at 1:30 and I've got enough time to get to Tottenham for 3 o'clock. Whereas if it's 1 o'clock, no, a 1 hour deadline, nah, it's too short. Can't do it. So 1 hour and a half works fine for me from a content perspective, but I don't really care, Froda, to be honest. Like, I don't have a preference. We discussed this with FPL Harry when he came on the podcast. We discussed this last Tuesday. Not that bothered. Personally, I would probably just move it to kickoff, like similar to that, or 5 minutes before, but I don't really care enough to have that much of a bias sway one way or the other. Dion Chung says, hi James, is there any game week where we could free hit apart from 32? Yeah, any of them. Any of them. Subject what you've got in your team, right? But for most people, 32 will be right. If you're sitting there with, I don't know, 3 Arsenal, 2 Liverpool, 2 Newcastle, just as a basic starting point for 32, and you've got like a Kane or a Tony or Watkins or any combination of that, which you probably will do for the forwards, then don't free hit, right? It's completely dependent on what you got. I had another conversation with Suj today saying you need to reconsider if it's right for you, because it's right for me. I'm not sure it's right for him. And he won't have the ideal, like he's got Van Dijk. He doesn't feel ideal at the moment. He's got Ben White. He doesn't feel ideal in terms of the best you can have in terms of free hitting in 32. But it's all right. Buy an Arsenal player, buy a Liverpool player. He's got good Newcastle coverage. He's got Kane. He's got good forwards. Does he need to do it? And he's still got the wild card as well. So, look, there's loads of weeks. There's loads of weeks. But 32 or 34 is probably going to be the best two. I'm sorry I don't have a radical, more exciting answer for that. Roseanne says, should I bring in Kanate for a Brentford defender? Can we also play double Newcastle defence versus Mighty Villa? Yes, you can. I don't mind Kanate as a shout. It's worth saying he missed a couple of days of training this week, but Jurgen Klopp was anticipating him rejoining training today, so he should be fine. Yeah, I think he's one of the things I discussed with Andy last Thursday, because I know he and many others are kind of keen on getting Trent, and I completely understand the reasoning behind that. And it's affordable, but you are potentially moving your structure of your team, and Kanate probably doesn't need you to move it. Vish says, do you agree with voter ID for the upcoming elections? Again, honest answer. Do I give a shit? No. Okay, I need my ID. Cool. Don't need my ID. Cool. If it's something that I think's restricted certain people, I don't know enough about it to be totally honest. The honest answer is I don't care one way or the other. Makes no difference to my life. JP says, will there be a deadline stream tomorrow? And I see you're sorry later on. That's no problem, mate. Yes, there will be. 10 o'clock in the morning, mate. In terms of deadlines for the rest of the season, I should be able to do... just looking. Is there a Friday night game week 36? I don't think there is it? I'm going to Villa Park. And I'm going to Ellen Road last day of the season as well. So I'll have 32, 33, 34, 35, 37 for you, but probably not 36, 38. I don't think there's a Friday game in game week 36. I feel almost... No, I don't know. No, in fact, I know there's not. I know there's not. So, yeah. Next 5 I've got for you. You'll be fine, including that 135. Like I said, I can... Yeah, I'm not bothered about the King's coronation. Roseanne says, Middlesbrough versus Norwich prediction and qualification to the Premier League from the Championship. Sure. Borough and Sheffield United to come up. And Borough to win 2-1 tonight. Luke Stevenson says, hi, James. Would you bench Fernandes, March or Watkins? And who would you bench out of Botman, Henry and Chilwell? So I've got Botman, Henry and Chilwell. And my order of preference will be Chilwell, Henry, Botman. In terms of the other ones, Fernandes, March, Watkins, I wouldn't bench Watkins, even though it'd be contradictory playing against Trippier. I just wouldn't at the moment. I'd probably bench March. Just rough that. FPL Kratos says, afternoon, James. Hope you're well. I'm looking at buying Gundogan this week alongside Grealish. Just wondered about your opinion on him. I like the positions he was taking up midweek against Bayern. I like the positions he's been taking up every game. Just not quite equating to returns. But I had this conversation 2 weeks ago on the pod where I said, and I spoke about it more at length on Tuesday, saying I really liked Gundogan. Like if I'd gone in a couple of weeks ago, I would have bought Gundogan rather than Grealish. I'm quite happy to admit to that. And Gundogan's done badly, like scored against Liverpool. He's not got the points Grealish got. And I was saying on Tuesday was pod with Suj that it's difficult, unfortunately, now to make the case to go for Gundogan over Grealish. But I also used the reference of one of our patrons, Rob Pick, who's in a position where he's got, you probably keep Rashford, but I know he's got Maddison and Barnes basically. And I said to him, consider getting both. I think it's perfectly reasonable, mate. Heather says, evening, James. Would you keep Rashford and play Jensen or bring in Grealish for Rashford? Thanks. Ooh. Matthias Jensen, very quietly, has been doing quite well this season. Not a bad one to have as a bench option to leave there for the rest of the season. but I'd be tempted to make the move. Yeah, especially if it's for free, Heather. Yeah, I probably would. Just similar to what I've said to other people. Just consider what's your avenue back to Rashford. Now, it might be that your avenue back is you're going to downgrade a forward and then go Jensen to Rashford in 34, for example. And if that's part of what looks good for you, then yeah, I'd make the transfer. NS and Garni 25 says, hey mate, best of luck this week, and to you. Says, stuck between a rock and a hard place this week. Free hit 32, own Rashford, sure, priced out of Grealish, but prefer to hold. Thoughts on Raya to Edison, Kepa to Everson, -4. Wow. No. Wow. -4, mate, and 2 goalkeeper changes. It got me a bit there. Ray is perfectly fine to play this week. Perfectly fine. Man City, you'll probably concede. You know what they're like. I get the want to obviously not waste the transfer, I'm guessing. So downgrading Kepa to Everson and then coming back and making that Raya to Edison transfer another time would feel better rather than the -4. There's literally nothing wrong with playing David Raya away to Wolves this week, I don't think. Heather's just clarifying that move we just discussed for Grealish for Rashford would be for a -4. I still think probably, Heather, like I said, if it comes back around that you can go Jensen to Rashford in 34 as part of a daisy chain, then probably yes. George Pichalbo, sorry if I mispronounced that, says, hello James, would you take a hit for Salah this week? He's subject to what you're selling. Rashford, Havertz, Chilwell out, Salah, Solanke 4.5 defender in. Nah. And 2, who do you think is the best 4.5 million defender? I won't play in this game week, but I will bench boost in 34. Jeez. I'm not going to recommend a West Ham or a Fulham defender to you for the sake of it. I'd almost rather... how much you got to play with there? 4.5. It's Botman or Burn probably still. Home to Southampton 34. Double later on. I mean, it's probably still that, George. FPL Invincible says, hi James, without free hit, do you think it's worth buying Grealish? The City could score a lot of goals against Leicester, so maybe it's worth sacrificing one less player in 32. I'd be less, if I wasn't free in 32, I'd be less inclined to do it, certainly. I'd be considering alternatives like Elise. So you start asking yourself, going, there's Elise out with 2 games outscoring Grealish with 1. It's not just about this week, is it? It's about next week as well. Then you also factor in, okay, right, Grealish got an extra fixture in 34, for example. Okay. Then you might want to say, right, I'll go to Grealish in 34. Do you look at Elise as an example? I'm just using him as an example versus Grealish free for the next 2. And you go, does Elise outscore that? So I think, yeah, you start suddenly looking at alternatives. Arsenal come right into the conversation, particularly for those who are not free in 32. There's no way you're getting rid of Arsenal players, and no way that you're not considering them right now. So again, dependent what you've got. If you're not free in 32, no, the desperation to get him is not quite the same. Of course, it's not. I see there's more Grealish stuff to come here. It says, Jim says, hello James, can't afford Rashford to Grealish this week. Plan to free hit 32. Chilwell to Pedro Porro, an acceptable punt with the added benefit of freed up budget. How often do you need to use him? That's all I'd say. Like, if you're punting for 1 week, like I don't hate it. I think defensive returns might be quite difficult to find this week. So getting an offensive player does feel, an offensive defender feels a little bit better. But other than this week, when are you playing him? Is what I'd say to you. Again, you start looking at 36 and no chance. 35 home to Palace maybe. And suddenly it's 4.8 million for a defender that you're not going to play often. And then you start looking at it and going, well, can you just go something really cheaper this week? Like, can you go Mark Gay of Palace, who covers you better off for, say, the next 2 weeks or so? Is he an acceptable punt? Yes, but it's dependent on how much you want to use him. If it's just 1 week and you're going straight to something else, yeah, it's fine. I don't mind. Manish says Odegaard to Grealish. I can't answer that, Manish, because I don't know what your chip strategy is, but I take it you've been listening, so you'll know what the answer is dependent on your strategy. Drico04 says, hey James, happy weekend. Hope you're well, mate. Have an okay side for this week, but still have free hit and wildcard. Going to free hit in 32. So the question is, wildcard this week or 33? No, 33, mate. More information is really important. There's a lot that can happen over this period. So you'll probably get confirmation on the Newcastle Brighton for 36 by the time 33 comes around, I should imagine. You'll also know which two teams are going to be in the FA Cup final. We will know if Manchester United, Chelsea, Manchester City, West Ham still in Europe. There's a lot of information to find out. Plus, changes in selection, form, injuries, suspensions, loads of things. I'd wait, mate. Andy Mack says, would you play the Brighton mids or Watkins this week, mate? I'd play Watkins. I would pick Watkins over Mitoma this week. Let me put it that way. But it wouldn't be a lot in it. That would just be my choice. Form's great at the moment. Not that Mitoma's bad, of course it's not. But yeah, I would not want to be leaving Watkins on the bench this week. I just would not want to look at that. R2 Carroll says, hi James, hope you and fam are good. Would you do Rashford to Grealish for free at 32, and Solanke will start if benching Rashford? Already done Kane to Haaland, thanks. A lot of Grealish stuff coming. I'm just going to have to skip the Grealish stuff here, guys. I think it's going to be way too boring for people. Yeah, again, it's only so many times I can say it. What's your plan to get Rashford back? You probably will want it. That's got to be part of the factor here. He's playing Solanke this weekend, okay. Yeah, I saw on FF Scout Joe's table, returns imminent. He's top, isn't he? Didn't have 6 shots last week at Leicester or so. So, like, playing him at Tottenham tomorrow is absolutely fine. Janega, thanks. I'm going to skip, mate, because I've done so much Grealish stuff. If I see Grealish's name, I'm just going to skip the question, guys, because I've covered it to death. But thank you for your question. Adam Lewis says, JMO, I hope you're well, mate. Who do you reckon will score the most this week, player and team? Man City and Haaland. Sorry, mate. Liam Crowley says, would you rather bench Watkins or McAllister? Josh Tellin says, hey James, how do you see the Liverpool-Leeds game going, given Liverpool's away form this season? Voba potentially still out. Salah versus Firpo. Is Salah worth a transfer hitting this week? So one of the things I looked at on Talking Tactics today was Trent's position against Arsenal. No way of knowing if that's going to stick or not. But what it does mean is, obviously, Salah having to hug the touchline a lot more if it's something that they're going to retain. Now, it didn't stop Mo Salah last week having his highest ever XG in a Premier League game. So again, you can spin that narrative either way. But the game became a bit mad. I think we can admit to that. Voba's got every chance of being fit for Monday. It's 3 days away the game. And there's every chance they'll probably just move Struijk to left back if he's available. That would be my best guess. Firpo could play at left back. I actually don't think he's done too badly the last few games. How do I see it going? On the face of it, you look at the two teams and the way Leeds are defensively, and say I think Liverpool win. And I do think Liverpool win. I absolutely would not be surprised if they got beat. Be big atmosphere there at Leeds. They seem to buckle under pressure a little bit. As soon as something goes wrong for them this year, it seems to spiral out of control in away games. And this is one such, and it might be that the first goal is really important on Monday night. Do I think Liverpool win? Yeah, probably. Do I think they go there and do to Leeds what Palace did? No, I really don't. Janega77 says, where do you stand on Trent versus Robertson versus Van Dijk? Even if Trent might be sort of inverted, Robertson may be much more advanced. Similar time last year, Robertson kept outscoring Trent. So again, interesting one. So in the build-up during the game, when Trent went into this, let's call it half-back Zinchenko/Stones position last week, Robertson was basically left-sided centre-back. And yet, it didn't stop him getting into the position where he had the shot, around about the 20-minute mark. It didn't stop him getting forward and having the original cross, which then later on Trent, from his more nominal position, obviously assisted Firmino. And I realise that probably changed a little bit once Thiago came on as well, and they played with 4 attackers then Liverpool. But I think I don't know what we can read on last week, and even if Klopp will do it again. I'm not sure. So I think we need a little bit more information. if I had to buy one right now, it would still probably be Trent. But I don't intend to do so. Let me put it that way. Yusuf says Trent and Salah -8 or Trent and Grealish -4. I have free hit for 32. Trent and Grealish then, mate. Dan Robinson says, hi, mate. Chilwell to a City or Liverpool defender for -4. Free hit 32. Cheers. Tempted to say neither. I mean, if you had to do one now, preference for City. Neil Kagan would like everyone to hit the like button. Yes, that'd be nice. It's only about 15 to 20% of you have smashed the like button on YouTube. Doesn't cost anything. If you're enjoying the stream, you're still watching live, just press the fun button. Doesn't cost anything. Thank you. Tom says, not FPL related, but what is the name of the touchscreen laptop Suj has in the podcast video posted a few days ago? I'm sorry, Tom. I haven't got a clue, mate. And do you know what? Suj could have told me and I probably still wouldn't know the answer, I'm afraid to say, mate. Message him on Twitter, @Sujan Shah, and ask him. He probably won't respond for about 2 weeks, but when he sees it, he'll let you know. Janega77 says, what would need to happen for a Dean Smith masterclass? Ian Asho to Haaland anyways. I think Leicester will go 5-3-1-1 tomorrow. I think Johnny Evans will play. I think Ian Asho might play as well, actually. I think they're going to narrow the pitch. I don't think it will stop City particularly, but we might see something very different tomorrow. G4J says, thoughts on a triple Brighton, Salah, KDB midfield for 34. Fine. Absolutely fine, mate. Like I said, like a general, the kind of template, if Rashford's fit, the template roughly is going to be the two Brighton, Fernandes, Salah, and Rashford. That's roughly what the template's going to be. Except now, everyone's buying Grealish this week, so something's got to give somewhere there. And I suspect Bruno Fernandes' form in the next couple of weeks will decide whether people who have still got him like me decide to keep or not. But is that midfield fine for 34? Yeah, nothing wrong with it, mate. FPL chat says, hi James, need some wisdom. Do you think it's worth a -8 to bring in Gabriel Jesus and Trent Alexander-Arnold for Tony and Chilwell this week? I could only possibly say yes if you're not free hitting next week. If you are, got to say no, mate. Zugi says, hi James, bring in Sabitzer for a 4-week punt instead of Rashford. I already have Grealish. He's a dirty cheap price, Marcel Sabitzer, 4.7. I think you got to ask yourself, Casemiro's back from suspension this week and Christian Eriksen's fit. Now, I don't think that Eriksen will start on Sunday, but he's going to rejoin that team soon. So, who plays for United when Casemiro, Eriksen and Fernandes are fit? Now, could Fernandes, particularly while Rashford's out, play in a wide position? Sure. But, not literally Luke Shaw, but sure, yes, he could. But at the moment, we're going to, I think, got to take that Rashford's likely to be back in 33 or 34. You've got Martial's fit now as well at the moment. It sounds like a fun one, but not for as long as you're thinking, I don't think. That would be my take. So, look, it could pay great this week, for example, but I think it's probably leaving you for a headache come game week 34, mate. That would be my take. I do think he'll start this week. Issa says, Maddison to Grealish or Gundogan, done it to death. Genif Faz says, hey James, Saka to Salah and Raya to Edison and Ings to Solanke from -8, I'm thinking. Sounds like too much. Future-proofing. Thanks for everything you do. Your knowledge in the sport is commendable. Thank you very much, Kenneth. I understand what you're saying about the future-proofing. And again, we had this discussion on our Patreon pod this morning as well about hit now or later. And I think unless you're sure that you're getting the payoff now, why not wait? Well, there's things to learn. You know, that would be my take. You're future-proofing, but what are you future-proofing in the unlikely scenario that Edison gets injured? Okay? I'm just saying, I don't think there's enough in it to justify that at the moment. And actually, what you're selling there, you're selling Saka. Saka might outscore the 3 players you're buying alone. Suj thinks Arsenal win about 4-0 on Sunday. I completely disagree with that, by the way. I think Arsenal will win, but I think it'll be low scoring. But Saka, we saw this against Palace in game week 28. The capability is there. You're making moves there that are a bit, Solanke better than Ings? Yeah, probably. Is Ederson better than Raya? No. No, he's not a better goalkeeper in FPL than David Raya. He's not. So for me, it's a no, Kenneth, personally, mate. Hussein Ali says, got Maddison and Rashford worth -4. Yeah, mate. Janega wants to shout out Finding Nemo for legendary animation film. Adi Tor says, how do you think Suter will do against Haaland? Well, Harry Suter didn't start last week. I think he'll come back in. As I said, I think they'll probably play a back five. I think probably Evans will sit in between Suter and Wout Fass. I think. Aerially, he's pretty decent, right? They'll go deep. They've got to go deep, right? If they start playing high and stuff like that, then get demolished. I probably won't do too badly individually, but Haaland will do anyone. So it didn't really matter. There's got to be defenders who've come off the pitch this season against Haaland and gone, I don't think I did badly, and he scored 3. It's got to have happened. Ethan Hood says, hi James, should I be activating the free hit immediately or should I wait till close to the deadline for game week 32? It's a good question. I think it depends on your certainty of use. So for someone like me, who's highly likely to go into this week with no Liverpool or no Arsenal, it's basically a certainty that I do it. However, what do you actually gain by doing it? What happens if we did have a natural disaster this week, heaven forbid? Do you need to press the button? I mean, I'm not saying don't press the button in case there's a natural disaster, because then you'd never make an early transfer in your life. That is probably fine, right? If you're like absolutely certain that you're going to use it, just do it. My take would be that you probably... Actually, let me rephrase it. I'm not going to struggle for value, I don't think, because I'm not likely to have Harry Kane. In fact, I'm certain I won't have Harry Kane in game week 32 unless Newcastle got an absolute raft of injuries this weekend. So budget for me, Salah's the only player in excess of sort of 9 million I'm going to have, right? So there's no reason for me to do it. Now, if you're going to be a bit tighter on budget, for example, then maybe you need to do it. But I think most people won't be, would be my take. So I don't see the reason to rush, really. Josh14X says, Solanke goal at the weekend. James, feel unlucky to only get one from him so far since 29, despite even that being dubious. Yeah, sure. He scores tomorrow. There you go. Good news for you. George Kenny says, hi, James. What do you reckon about Porro as a one-week punt? Is he the pick ahead of Perisic? Is he the pick ahead of Perisic? Probably not. Probably not if on just the 1 week, and if it is literally 1 week, then probably edge for Perisic. And TJ says, hi James, I got no Salah and Arsenal mids this game week. Should I be worried? Play 2 Brighton mids, Bruno and Grealish, bench Maddison, can't buy Salah. Good idea to sell him for an Arsenal midfielder when I'm free hit game week 32. I'm sorry, I'm lost to what the final question is there, but you're highly likely to end up with the same midfield as me this week, mate. So it'll be what it'll be. JP says, oh, how comes you're not playing game week 39? I was looking forward to see your midfield masterclass. Hopefully I'll try and provide the masterclass from the sidelines. I'm retired, mate. That game nearly killed me last year. And it's not killing me this year. So, no, I look forward to being there. No, I won't be playing. The team will be stronger for me not being there, and I'll be able to advise from afar. Dan, the FPL fan, says, hello, James. Can you tell me a little bit about your Patreon? Thanks. Fucking hell, Dan, you piss taker. I've done it, mate, but cheers, pal. I know what you're doing there, and I appreciate it. Ethan Hood says, what sort of FPL-related thing event gives you the biggest buzz when it happens? FPL-related thing event gives you the biggest... do I get a buzz? I suppose being right, isn't it? Really, isn't this what a lot of this is about? We all want to be right, you know. It's like anything in life. We don't like being wrong, and we like being right, and I think that's a normal human trait to have. So yeah, I suppose when you make the decision that that no one else likes. Or I guess for me, it's the strategy side of it, the understanding, the planning of when the doubles can happen. And this year, from that perspective, because the cup results actually ended up being far more turgid in terms of planning out the weeks than we thought it would be. So it's probably that, you know, if you make a bold prediction on what games are going to go where, and it's right, it's probably that. I guess also related to what sort of FPL related event gives you the biggest buzz when it happens. It's the content. It's the stuff we do. So when we do something really good and people like it and appreciate it and it helps people, it's that. And I suppose, very off FPL topic, but I guess it's FPL related, is some of the, you know, there's always bad messages. But the good messages we have, particularly when people come privately and say, like, we've helped. We've not just done anything other than just be two blokes sitting in front of a microphone talking about football, and it helps people. That's really nice to hear. It's incredibly humbling. Chris says, "Hey James, love your stream. Start to a Chilwell, Estupinan or Trippier. Estupinan and Trippier, mate." Rio says, "If you have 10 players for game week 32, is it necessary to use free hit?" Yeah, but what? So, I always say, patrons will know this. I always say this. It's not the how many, it's the who. So you've got 10 players. Okay, great. But if you're including, like, I got Nico Williams away to Liverpool. I've got Gavin Bazzuno away to Arsenal. You know, what? If you're sitting there and you've got 6 Arsenal, Liverpool, and you've got a little bit of Newcastle and a couple of them forwards I've mentioned, sure, you don't need to use it. Of course not. You've got 10 players, but you've got no Arsenal, no Liverpool. You need to think about what you're doing, don't you? So it's not the how many, it's the who. Janega77 says game week 36 bench boost might be better than 34. I've obviously looked ahead at a couple of different plans, and I'm nervous about game week 36 because I think there is a absolutely huge benching headache coming that week. And I think those who don't like their situation for 34 bench boost should look at it and consider it. Maybe that's all I'm going to say. I would still prefer 34 because I think particularly in Brentford and Newcastle, they have 2 great home fixtures where the likes of Raya, Trippier, Pinnock, Isak, Tony, they're all perfectly reasonable to have as part of a bench boost that week. But 36 as well, yeah. Honestly, go and have a look at it. Look ahead, use FPL.team and have a look on your planned transfers, what you think your bench will look like for 36. And I think some of you will be surprised. Michael Scott says, assuming you make Maddison to Grealish move, what's your plan for getting Salah? It's a good question. And the honest answer to that would be, Michael, that if I'm very happy with the 5 I have, the 2 Brighton, Rashford's fit, if Fernandes is finding form, and Grealish is doing well, then the honest answer is I won't. But my take on the most likely scenario currently is that I'll probably end up getting him in for Bruno Fernandes. I think he's probably the most likely at the moment. But I'm very, very conscious and aware of several different avenues to get there, which involves also leaving balance in the rest of my team. So one option is still Aki, Kanate, Sam Greenwood of Leeds, Evan Ferguson of Brighton. There's several different routes that I can take if I need to swerve it and go, fuck, this hasn't worked with Grealish or Rashford isn't fit. I need to do this, that, and the other. Then I'll do so. So I've got money in the bank. I'm very close financially as it is. I'm gonna have about 4.8 in the bank. So I'm not miles away financially. I haven't got Kane, right? So there's more money in the bank. It's going to be a little bit easier for me than it is for others. Although that said, I know for many, the route to Mo Salah for many of you will be via Harry Kane. Ashik says, bringing Grealish in or Salah in would be your first priority this week, team without Kane. You've asked me straight, who scores more this week? Let's say Salah. It's dependent again on your strategy, isn't it? Rio says best Rashford replacement if you have Grealish. Let's say Gundogan for jokes. Right, one more. The man, the myth, the legends, and that's actually a handle. That's not a build up to someone. It says, hi James, any latest on the Tony drama? Will a verdict be finalised for this game week? It's Friday evening. Just very unlikely anything's going to happen between now and kick-off this weekend. So, no, not had any word on anything. He will get banned. I'm absolutely certain of that. I have no idea how long for, and I have no idea when that ban's coming. And it'll be just one day. It will drop. Not a clue. At the moment, it's still a very good FPL asset for everyone. Right, thanks very much for your questions, guys. Sorry for those I haven't got to, but hopefully that covers off most of your dilemmas. Deadline stream is tomorrow on YouTube at 10 a.m. as promised. As said, you want to support the show, www.patreon.com/planetfpl. I can tell you there are 3 Clash of the Correspondents next week. Brentford versus Aston Villa with Tom Med and Lee Jackson on Tuesday. Arsenal versus Southampton, Adam Pritchard, Matt Samuel Thursday, and Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest early on Friday, ahead of next Friday's deadline, with Dan Lord and Mark Southerns. Sky Fantasy Podcast Wednesday, main podcast reviewing Game Week 31 will be on Monday. Our Patreon content next week will include a Q&A on Monday. Tuesday might be UCL Fantasy, but I might deem it not worthwhile. We'd certainly want to do a Money in Football podcast on Patreon in the very near future, either this week coming or the week after, on the future of football on television, essentially. Wednesday we'll do Tottenham, Thursday we'll do a quiz, and next Friday early will be our Game Week 32 differential show preview. I'll be on my free hit, and I'll be confirming what my selections are on that podcast. I don't know if Suj will be on free hit or not. Again, if you'd like to support the show, www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Which leaves me to say thank you very much to everybody who contributed in the chat. Smash a like, hit the sub button on the way out. If you're listening on the audio, if you can do us a review, we never ask for that very often. It'd be hugely appreciated. Have a great weekend, everyone. As always, be nice to each other, play it your way, and for the benefit of those on the audio, cue music, please, man child.